All right, hi everybody, John Meadows here, and today I want to talk about something that I really enjoy talking about, and that's soreness. Like, do you need to be sore in order to grow? I've had a lot of people message me recently and ask about the band training we've been doing. Like, some of them are saying, I'm not getting sore at all. Does that mean I'm not growing? And some people are saying, all of a sudden I'm getting a little more sore. What does that mean? So, what does it mean? Do you have to be sore? Now, when I think of soreness, I think of the term muscle damage. And are they exactly alike? Not necessarily, but generally speaking, if you're really sore, you have a lot of muscle damage. Just generally speaking. So just roll with me on that. So the first probably 25 years of my life training, I was always sore. Something was always sore. I had body parts in particular that would get really sore. My legs, for example, and my chest would get really, really sore. Generally, if I trained something on Saturday, it was sore until probably Thursday of the next week. And then Friday I would rest to hit it again on Saturday. So I made good progress though over the years, being sore all the time, like crippled sore. So was that really necessary? I always thought it was. I certainly made good progress. I went from, a young guy all the way up to the national level. And, a lot of my friends had the same thing. And it would seem that being sore was very beneficial. So I just assumed that the old adage was true, which was, you break something down, then it rebuilds stronger. So when you train really, really hard, your body is forced to adapt. So the way I took that was, well, then the harder I train, the more adaptations I'm going to force. So I just trained like crazy, like a madman. Then came about 2010, 2011, and I've told this story at my seminars. I'll give you the short version of it. I was stuck. No matter how hard I trained, no matter how sore I got, I could not grow. And I had to change my recovery capacity in order to train with more frequency, because that was the thing I really hadn't done. I hadn't trained with any real frequency. Everything was once a week or once every 5 days, maybe once every 4 days on maybe, but generally it's once every 5 to 7 days. So I worked on the intra-nutrition stuff and all that. I'm not really going to get into that during this video, but I was able to not get sore. Certainly a dramatic change for me, going from being crippled sore almost to not sore at all. So what happened? Did I stop growing? I actually had a growth spurt. I actually grew a lot from 2011 to 2012. 2012, I turned 40 years old. I went to Masters Nationals, and I was all of a sudden over 220 pounds on stage, whereas before I was generally right around 212, 211, 213. I was kind of in that area for a long time. So it was very apparent to me that being sore was not a requirement. So now let's dive into this a little further. What does the research say? What are just my general thoughts on it, just generally speaking? So first of all, you got to look at what causes muscle soreness. So it's increases in volume, it's increases in intensity. And what I mean by that is taking more sets closer to failure. So your proximity to failure is going to impact how sore you get. Muscle contractions at long lengths. So let's say you're doing a stiff-legged deadlift. That's something that could potentially really stretch your hamstring hard. Those type of movements can create a lot of muscle damage too. I actually put those in my workouts as the last movement for the body part, something where there's a really good full range of motion. What about novelty? So let's say you take some time off, or you just change exercise routines, and then all of a sudden you're really sore. So that's the one that I find to be the most interesting, because that's really hard to pinpoint why that is. Why pressing with a different exercise would all of a sudden create a lot of soreness. But it is an absolute fact that sometimes changing exercises can do that. The other thing is probably eccentric contractions. So when you're lowering the weight, let's say you're doing a curl, as you're lowering the weight, that's eccentric contraction. Those type of contractions have also been shown to create a little more muscle damage as well. So you got high volumes, high intensity, eccentric muscle contractions, training to long lengths, novelty. And so you look at those things. Now, let's think about what causes muscle growth. Okay, let's say you've been training a while. Let's say you're not a beginner. Well, let's say you are a beginner. What about the novelty part, just starting a new program? Absolutely. Absolutely, you'll experience some newbie gains, right? We've all heard that phrase. What about when you get to intermediate and advanced, though? What are the things that can help you grow? Training at a higher proximity to failure. Maybe changing the volume a little bit. Maybe a little bit more focus on the eccentric part of the movement, and the long muscle lengths still apply. So particularly the intensity of your training. So what makes you grow is also what can potentially make you really sore. So there's an overlap there, first of all. So you can't say, I'm going to avoid all these things that cause soreness, because if you do, you're avoiding all the things that can cause muscle growth, all right? So you got to understand that first. Now, let's look at muscle damage, especially what happens and why do people think that muscle damage can create new growth? Well, one of the things that is pretty common in the literature is damage can cause increased rates of muscle protein synthesis. So we've talked before on this channel about that balance of muscle protein synthesis, where you're building up building up muscle proteins, and muscle protein breakdown, where you're building them down. And you want the synthesis to outweigh in that equation the muscle protein breakdown. So if you're getting all this muscle protein synthesis, it would make sense to just crush yourself and get really sore, because that stimulates rates in muscle protein synthesis, right? I think that's what the original thought was. But all that hard volume training, all that high intensity training, the heavy eccentric loading, all that stuff also creates muscle protein breakdown. So what happens a lot of times is those increases in muscle protein synthesis are just there to repair the damaged muscle fibers. So if you dig that ditch down this low from all the damage, a lot of that muscle protein synthesis you're stimulating might just be to get you back up to normal. Now, I can tell you, back when I hit that sticking point in 2010, 2011, leading up to then, I'd been training my butt off. I'd been eating in a caloric surplus. I'd been doing everything I could. I was crazy sore. So you would think I would grow, but I really didn't grow. I was really stuck. So I think that's what happens a lot of times. I think that we just think, well, if I'm sore, then all this muscle protein is stimulated and synthesis is stimulated, and it's going to be fine. We're going to grow. But it's not the case. And I'm betting there's a lot of you out there that have probably been in that boat where you're training really hard, but you're just not getting the results. Okay, so let's talk about your performance, because that's going to kind of dictate what you do. And that's really what we're trying to get in this video, is what do you need to do? So if you are not getting sore, but you're making great progress, like I was in 2011, 2012, 2013, do you need to add any intensity? Do you need to do anything like that? I would say no. If you're doing great, roll with it. Just keep rolling with it. And then when you're stuck, maybe then you add more intensity. Now, what if you're not getting sore at all, but you're not getting results? Then I think that's clearly an opportunity for you to kick it up a notch. So I would look at your volume. I would look at the number of sets you're doing per week. I would look at the intensity you're training at. I would look at those things. And I'm guessing you could probably bump your volume up a little bit, and also probably bump your intensity up. So take more sets to closer to failure. I'm not going to say take all your sets to failure, but if you're taking no sets to failure, then start taking 2 sets to failure. If you're taking 2 sets to failure and it's not working, you're not getting sore, then let's bump it to 4 sets that you're taking. So you see what I'm saying there? Just look where you're at volume. Let's say you're training a body part 12 sets a week. Okay, let's try 14 sets a week or 15 sets a week. So use an intelligent, systematic approach to increase your volume and your intensity if you're not getting sore. Now, let's take a look at if you're getting really sore. So if you're getting really sore and your results are excellent, I also had a phase like that in my life in my 20s, where I was getting really sore, but I was growing, so it was working. Do I think you need to pull back? Not really. The best answer is when you're making progress. And if you told me I stopped training shoulders and I just went out and started chopping wood for an hour a day. Now my shoulders are huge. What should I do? I would say keep doing what you're doing. When something is working, keep doing it. I don't even care what it is. If it's working, keep doing it, okay? Now, what if you're getting really, really sore, but your results are poor? You're not getting any results. So in that case, you do the opposite. You look at your intensity, you look at your sets. Now you got to systematically pull it down. Doesn't mean you need a major overhaul, but you may need to bring your volume down a little. You may need to bring your intensity down some as well.
Hello everybody, my name is Alexander Meadows, and today I'm going to be doing the Brent stole.
Now, really, if you look at the big picture, there's more things involved here. So let's say you're getting really, really sore, but you're not even really training that hard. Now you got to really start to question things like your nutrition. Are you really eating around training? I can tell you that a lot of people who train fasted, who don't eat any time around training, get really sore. It's very common. And you can pretty much fix that just by moving nutrients around the training window. Maybe you're not sleeping real well. Maybe there's a lot of stress. So the change in training programming is one option, but you do have to look at the big picture, okay? So I do want to mention that too, in all fairness. I'm sure if I don't, people will point that out. So we've got 4 situations here again. Not getting sore, great results, keep it up. Not getting sore, poor results. So now you're going to jack up the intensity. Getting real sore, great results, keep it up. Real sore, getting poor results. Now you got to make some changes. A little bit lower intensity. Maybe you're just training sore. Maybe you're one of these people who have bought into the high frequency models, which is not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing if you're not recovering. All right. And this is probably the thing I see the most. Everybody's talking about training frequency now, and you got to stimulate muscle protein synthesis so often that if you do your chest Monday, I don't care if it's sore Thursday, it's repaired according to what I've read in this study. It's been 48 hours, so it's repaired, so I got to hit it again. Well, let me tell you, that's a bad idea. If the muscle is sore, first of all, performance. If a muscle is sore, the muscle fibers can't contract as well and produce force. So you're going to see your performance actually go down. That's not a good thing. That's not going to stimulate additional growth, in my opinion. It's suboptimal training. So, and if you're really, really sore, you can actually kill muscle fibers. Look it up. They can be necrotic and have to regenerate. So there's no need to be excessively crazy sore. Sometimes it happens. I've been on that side many, many times. So that's kind of how I would summarize your training and how to make adjustments. And you notice those adjustments were pretty little. They weren't massive changes. And that's the way sometimes it is for your results. You just got to kind of examine where you're at, use some common sense, make some small changes. If that doesn't work, make a little bit bigger changes. Now, I do want to mention this as well. Some of you are natural, some of you aren't. So when we talk about the things that really make you sore, the increased volumes, the increased intensity, as a natural, it's going to be harder for you to recover because your muscle protein synthesis isn't turned on all the time. So the guys who have some help, their muscle protein synthesis is cranking all the time. They're in a much better state to recover. So if you see this other guy on YouTube and he's cranking hard, he's done, 20 sets for chest and he's big, that doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you. You may not be able to recover because you don't have the things going for you that he has for him. Now, I'm not knocking that guy. As you guys know, I'm a freedom of choice guy. So if you're on that other side of it being enhanced, realize that you can recover. And if you get sore, it's a little bit more okay for you because you're going to be able to recover a little bit faster. Your muscle protein synthesis is going to be turned on. So you can go a little bit more voluminous with your training. And as I always say, and I want to wrap up my video with this, when it comes down to the intensity though, for best results, natural or not natural, you have to have intense sets, really intense sets. It's just a number of those sets. That's the difference when you're natural or not natural. So anyways, I hope this helps. It's an awesome topic. Feel free to ask me questions below on it. And appreciate the support. Hope you guys are staying safe out there, and we'll see you next time.